Doug, could you tell us a bit of your current work in India, Burma, and Cambodia?
Yeah, I'm working with sex worker advocacy groups in India
Yeah,
um, and Cambodia on how ICT can be used by sex workers to get their voices heard in policies that impact their lives.
and when you say ICTs, what exactly you have in mind?
Well, digital information largely. Actually, to be honest, it's much broader than that. Like, we're looking at information in total and how does information flow and help advocacy. So, like, one example of this is the Cambodian group just had well, like 5 years ago, they boycotted um, a ARV, HIV/AIDS drug trial in the country because they wouldn't give participants health insurance.
I see.
And the way that that information flowed and
Yeah,
worked within the campaign was all verbal. It was all word
I
of
see.
mouth.
But actually, it's a tough combination of ICTs and sex workers because sex workers are among the most disempowered and poor in this area, and
Yes,
ICTs presume a certain amount of capability.
yes. And one of the components of this project that we're currently doing is training
I see.
and getting them, figuring out what's the best ways to train them, what they need to know, and and dealing with things like illiteracy and the way that they actually communicate and all that. So one way that it turns into is mobile phones becoming a very key element of transferring information,
I
and
see.
in that, because of the illiteracy issues, using voice rather than SMS, taking considerations like that.
Yeah. So you would have to take care of things like regional languages and cost and illiteracy and a whole lot of other factors.
There's regional issues, and one of the things also is localization. So, like in Cambodia, you even if people are literate, the mobile phones don't have Khmer fonts,
I see.
and so it's useless for people even that are illiterate
How
to
do you
use
compare?
SMS.
How do you compare your experiences in these three countries?
In those, at, basically, India has a lot more infrastructure, and there's a lot more. Um,
Middle class activism.
well, there's a no. I mean, yes, of course, but uh, there's a lot more. There's a longer history of um, activist quite type things, and also much more, radical stuff like socialism
Okay.
or communist structures, things like that. Cambodia is uh, they're very new, and as a result, I think they don't have some baggage, for the
Okay.
last couple of years, and they have very new ideas.
I see.
And so it's interesting to be working in both places where you're talking about a tradition and where you're talking about non-tradition in activism, and what does that look like.
So what are the main challenges as you see it?
Um, it's funny. I mean, our challenges are really about figuring out how that training piece is going to happen and what's the best way for them to get that training. But the thing more, I see a lot of. I'm very optimistic and positive because there's so much creativity within those networks already. They so they're so good already at things like visualization,
I see.
at being really creative on how they display information, that it's just really exciting to be working with them to see how how this stuff turns into very creative things.
Thanks. Thanks a lot.
Sure.